This is AFR's Reviews, from anime to figures and beyond.
biggest dream 全速力で未来も今も駆け抜けろ
Hey, this is AFR and welcome to another episode of AFR's Figure Reviews. We've come a long way, and we've finally reached the end because in this episode of AFR's Figure Reviews, we'll be taking a look at the last Digivolving figure from the Japanese Digimon Tamers line, Warp Digivolving Impmon to Beelzemon, or Beelzemon as he's known in the States. In this review, I shall be comparing him to his US counterpart, so a brief review of that figure will be necessary. Basically, the Impmon mode is passable, but it does have some weird proportions and a ton of kibble on his back. But that's really kind of characteristic of the American Digimon Tamers Digivolving figure line. And yes, as you've already probably noticed, the paint is really messed up and I lost the pieces that forms Impmon's ears, which also double up as Beelzemon's secondary set of wings. The Beelzemon mode, however, is nothing short of impressive. One of the best that the US line has to offer, if I do say so myself. The details are phenomenal, the proportions are great, and you have even some play value with his included accessories, his Corona Blaster and his gun. Not to mention, you can even holster his gun onto his leg, which I really do like. A couple of negatives though. Number one being the sad lack of articulation. His arms are okay. I mean, his shoulders can only move forwards and backwards. Elbows move forwards and backwards to a very, very slight extent. Forearms can rotate. His wrist can rotate as well. But anything below his body is completely unmovable due to the transformation. His legs are completely stuck in place, save for this awkward side-to-side movement. Secondly, I really would have appreciated it if they had included a second gun, but that's not a deal breaker. Alright, with that out of the way, let's move on to the main subject of today's review, the Japanese rendition of the Warp Digivolving Beelzemon. How does he compare to his US counterpart? Well, let's find out. The box once again follows the style of the previous releases before it, albeit in a mostly black with a 3D portrait of Beelzemon in the bottom right hand corner. There is a window display through which you can see the actual figure. On the side it says Yami no Kikoshi ga metaru realized. The young noble of darkness has metal realized, and yes, the figure has actual die-cast metal parts in it, but more on that in just a second. On the sides we have pictures of the figure in both Impmon and Beelzemon mode with some stats. And on the back, a picture of the transformation process from Impmon to Beelzemon mode and the parts of the figure that are made of metal. We also have brief bios of the two and a little advert showing off the other figures for sale in the line. So that's pretty much it for the box. Let's open it up and take a look at the figure inside. As always, we'll be starting the review off with the figure in its less powerful form, and in this case, Impmon. And boy, what an Impmon mode it is! While it's not perfect, it's definitely a marked improvement over the US one. First off, the positives. I think that it has better proportions with the larger head, bigger ears and bigger fists. I also think that the design of Impmon's face is much more accurate to the show. Just like the rest of the Japanese Digimon Tamers figures, it also does a remarkable job in managing all the kibble, and it results in an exceedingly compact and smooth looking figure. Not only that, this mode is extremely solid, feels well built and has some significant heft to it. Of course, some kibble is still sure to show up, and in this mode, it takes the form of Beelzemon's metal arm guards, shin pieces, legs and tail. Still, that's nothing when compared to the US figure. Remarkably enough, despite these smaller proportions, Impmon does retain a couple of points of articulation. He has a ball-jointed shoulder that can move in and out and rotate side to side. He has a swivel elbow joint that can move forwards and backwards. His legs move forwards and backwards. Sadly, there's no knee joint, but his feet are on a ball joint and can move all the way around any way you want. And the front of the foot is separately articulated from the rest of the foot on this little ball joint. Last but not least, his tail can move up and down and side to side. One final issue that I have with this mode is that the face on his chest isn't painted in. I mean, the details are properly sculpted in, but I just feel that some paint would have made this truly pop. With all that said and done, it's time for our final Matrix evolution.
待ってろ、アイマコ。俺は必ず帰ってくる。
We start by lifting Impmon's face, revealing most of Beelzemon's upper torso. We open Impmon's head completely, turning it into Beelzemon's wings. Straighten Beelzemon's arms up. Next, we take the upper torso of Beelzemon, put it up, rotate it around, before dropping it back in place. For Beelzemon's legs, we split Impmon's torso, take these panels, flip them out, rotate them around and push them back down to form Beelzemon's shins. We do the same on the other side. Rotate the front of the feet around and point them up so that the toes become metal spikes. Straighten the tail up and rotate it around. We then open up his forearms to reveal Beelzemon's hands, flip them out, and close the forearm back up. Finally, we pull on the two sides of his jacket to bulk him up. Yeah, before I talk about the Beelzemon mode, I have to preface this by saying that this figure is the cheapest to acquire out of all the Japanese Digimon Tamers figures. I got this figure for only 900 yen. That's 11 US dollars. I couldn't believe it at the time, but now I think I know why this figure is going for such a low price, and it is staring you right in the face. The Beelzemon mode. While not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, it does have some significant problems that really sets itself apart from the other figures in the line, and not in a good way. So where do we begin? Well, let's start with the design. Firstly, its head, which is made out of metal. This, I think, is the main contributing factor to the lack of detail and its wonkiness. Now, I understand that the die-cast parts are part of the gimmick of the line, but they could have put it in other places like the guns or the boots. It makes sense for Rapidmon and Gallantmon to have metal heads, but not for Beelzemon. I mean, I love diecast as much as the next collector, but only when it's utilized properly. Speaking of proper execution, there is also metal in the arm guards, which work great. Coming back to the head, do notice that the middle eye is red as opposed to being green. Moving on to the rest of the figure, we do see some nice touches of detail, such as Impmon's scarf on his left arm, and the painted in zips and belt buckles. However, for some inexplicable reason, the figure still seems really bland to me. Perhaps it's because most of the figure is made out of this really deep black plastic that hides a lot of this sculpted detail. Not to mention, there are still some inaccuracies sprinkled throughout the figure, such as Impmon's gloves on the underside of Beelzemon's forearms, and his shins, which is missing his holster. Compared to the US version, you can see that the US one looks much better and more cohesive in the Beelzemon mode, and I don't really know why. Perhaps because the Japanese one is also proportioned strangely with the long arms and skinny legs. Also, the Japanese version does have its Impmon head become its wings, similar to the US version, but it's far worse due to the fact that it's far larger and more obtrusive, what with its ears and all sticking out from his back. Because of this, the figure is horrendously back heavy, though you can use the tail for support. Articulation wise, however, it does fare much better than its American counterparts. The shoulders can move forwards and backwards, in and out. The elbows can move forwards and backwards and rotate side to side. The wrists don't move, however. The fingers and thumb are individually articulated. It does have kind of a waist joint. The upper torso can move side to side, but the wings are attached to his waist, meaning that it will cause some obstruction. The legs can move forwards and backwards and in and out to a very slight extent. The knee joint is a 90-degree bend. Just like the Impmon mode, the feet are on a ball joint, and the tail is now double jointed and can also move side to side. And now we come to the final nail in the coffin, the accessories. But first, I have to give them credit for giving Beelzemon both his guns that store neatly away in his ears. The guns are aptly detailed and come in two colors as opposed to the US one. But, and here's the $1,000,000 question, what about his Death Slinger / Corona Blaster? He's Beelzemon Blast Mode, for crying out loud. How could it not include the accessory that the mode is named after? As incredulous as this may sound, this time round, it is Bandai of America that did the right thing and included the Corona Blaster. In conclusion, for such a kick-ass character like Impmon and Beelzemon, I am honestly disheartened that the figure turned out this way. With all the other figures in the line being stellar, it is simply shocking that the Beelzemon figure turned out so bad. But just to make things clear, I won't say that this is a horrendous figure, just not a very good one, especially when compared to the other figures in the line and to its US counterpart. To summarize, it does have an interesting transformation and good Impmon mode that is both solid and sturdy, but the Beelzemon mode is a complete letdown in terms of design, details and accessories. The US version, however, has a not so good Impmon mode, finicky transformation, but brilliant Beelzemon mode that shines in terms of accuracy and accessories, but not so much in the articulation department. In short, while I believe that the US version is the superior of the two due to the simply outstanding Beelzemon mode, I wouldn't completely disregard the Japanese version. Sure, the Beelzemon mode is rubbish, but the transformation is fun and the Impmon mode isn't half bad. Not to mention, it's exceedingly cheap. For 10 to 20 bucks, he is definitely worth a look at. So, this is Actar saying, see you guys in the next episode. And that concludes my Digimon Tamers series of reviews and pretty much all of my Digimon reviews. The only things that I have left to review are the Japanese Digivolving Adventure 02 figures. But I won't be able to do so because the last I saw of them was some 11 years ago. It's really a shame because I actually own the entire set. I mean, the only way I'd be able to review them is, I don't know, if I had access to a time machine. Wait a second. Where's that music coming from? Great Scott!